Now we are going to learn about spiral model. So spiral model is actually one of the most important software development lifecycle model. And the main feature in spiral model is that it provides support for risk management, or you can say risk handling. And here, by the term risk, we mean a potentially adverse circumstance which may impair the development process and the quality of the product. So, the successful delivery of the product mainly depends on risk analysis or risk management. So, this is the spiral model. So here you can see this spiral model is actually cyclic, and it's not linear like waterfall model or other models. It's cyclic, and each cycle of the spiral actually consists of 4 stages. You can see here the 4 stages, and each stage is represented by one quadrant of the Cartesian diagram. The exact number of loops or cycles of the spiral is unknown, and it depends or it can vary from project to project. So each loop or each cycle of this spiral model contains 4 stages. So the first stage is determine objectives, alternatives, and constraints. So here at the start of every loop or at the start of every cycle, we will do requirement engineering. So that means we will gather requirements from the customer, and we will identify the objectives here, and those objectives will be analyzed at this stage. So here you will also consider qualities, what kinds of qualities you have to achieve in this stage, and also you will identify alternative solutions to your problem, such as whether to buy, or whether you are going to design, or you are going to reuse any of the software. So you will identify possible outcomes of those different alternatives, and you will also identify constraints of different alternatives. So these will be done in our first stage of every loop. The alternatives are then evaluated in stage 2. So here also potential risk areas are identified, and those are dealt with. So we deal with those possible potential risk with risk management. So it may require different kinds of activities to be planned, such as prototyping or simulation. Then we move to stage 3. So in stage 3, the identified features are developed and verified through testing. So at the end of this stage, the next version of the software is available. Then we move to stage 4. So in the fourth stage, the customers evaluate the so far developed version of the software, and in the end, planning for the next phase is started. So these are the 4 phases, 4 quadrants in spiral model. So we iterate through these 4 stages for each loop. So you can see the most important feature of the spiral model is handling the unknown risk after the project has started, and we resolve those risks using prototype model or simulations. So here I want to mention one thing here, that the spiral model is viewed as meta model. So what is meta model? Why spiral model is called meta model? Because it can accommodate any process development model. So let me give you an idea. So if your requirements, or if the requirements of your application are very well understood, then what model you are going to use? You will use conventional waterfall model, right? So here you can see the conventional waterfall model is actually a simple one turn spiral model. So if you just do one loop, it's a waterfall model. But suppose your requirement understanding is not very clear for the next stage. So what you are going to do in this stage, in this phase, in this loop? So in this loop, you are going to use a evolutionary model. So you can choose any evolutionary model here for the next stage. So that means in the first stage your requirement understanding was very good, you have used a waterfall model, and in the next stage you have used a evolutionary model as your project requirements, your understanding of the project requirements were not very good in the next stage, so you have used evolutionary model. So that means several spiral turns may be required in order to achieve the desired result, and in these different or several spider turns you can use different models. So you can accommodate any mixture of the models that we have discussed, like incremental model, evolutionary model, throwaway prototyping, then you have read waterfall model, iterative waterfall model. So for any loop you can use different model. So that means you can accommodate any mixture of the models. So that means with the appropriate mix chosen, you can minimize the risk involved in the development. So that's why this is called meta model. So now let's talk about the advantages of this spiral model. So here we can divide this development of our project into smaller parts, and we can implement or we can develop the risky parts earlier in our software development lifecycle. So this will help us in better risk management. So this is one advantage. And here the requirements can be captured more accurately, and if you have any changing requirements later after implementing the system, if you got any changing requirements, then it can be easily accommodated to the system, right? So that's one more advantage, and it's also good for large and complex projects. And here customer can see the development of the product at the very early phase of the software development life cycle. So that's one more advantage. So now if we talk about the disadvantage of this spiral model, the first thing comes in our mind that it's so complex. You are going to use different models for different loops, so it will be complex. Then it will be costly to use this model. So if you want to use this model for small projects, it's not gonna happen. It will be really expensive. And also the successful completion of the project is very much dependent on risk analysis. So without very highly experienced expertise, it is going to be a failure to develop a project using this spiral model. And there are a large number of intermediate stages in the spiral model which requires excessive documentation. That's also a disadvantage. And one more thing is that the spiral model may go on indefinitely, so end of the project may not known early. So now when we are going to use this spiral model, so when there is a budget constraint and risk evolution is important, if risk evolution is important for your project, then you can use the spiral model, and you will use it for medium to high risk project. There is no need to use this model for small or low risk projects. You can also use this model if your customer is not sure about their requirements, and also you can use it when the requirements are complex and those requirements need verification or evaluation to get clarification, so you can use it at that time. And also if you are building a new product, so if you are building a new product that need constant customer feedback, at that moment you can use this spiral model, because it's helpful to get customer feedback after each and every loop. And also if you are expecting significant changes in your software development, then you can use this spiral model.